If I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. It's up to you. New York, New York, New York, world champions.
The New York Knicks are world champions, and joining us right now is the great Joe B. Joe Benigno. Joe, you said that none of your teams would ever live again as long as you were living. That turned out to be incorrect, baby. The New York Knicks are world champions.
Yeah, just roll it off your tongue, bro. It's really staggering to think about. I say this all the time. No team that I root for has given me more pain than the Knicks. I mean, when you consider all the brutal playoff losses I had, in the Ewing years, and then some of the dumb decisions that this franchise has made over the years. We love Jim Dolan today, but I mean, there was a time when Jim Dolan was the most hated guy in New York. I mean, let's be honest about it. Some of the bad decisions. I mean, we could go. I've been breaking them down for days now, but I just never really thought that I would see another one. I really never did.
When did it feel real for you that this was a possibility with this particular team?
Well, you had to think that way with the way they rambled through the playoffs. I mean, the 13 straight wins, the sweeps, basically they didn't sweep Atlanta, but once they straightened themselves out, they blew them out in 3 straight games. The 51-point beatdown in Game 6, and then the sweep of the Sixers. A lot of people thought the Sixers were going to give them trouble. They just, they destroyed them. They beat them in 4. Deuce McBride in Game 4 on Mother's Day hitting threes all over the game was over in the first quarter. And then the unbelievable win in Game 1 against Cleveland. And I got to tell you, man, I'm flipping out because the Knicks, I've said this repeatedly. I mean, for people that don't know, they've never won a playoff series where they lost Game 1 at home. And here they are down 22 to this team that, come on. I mean, Cavaliers, you talk about a fraud. And the way they came back to win that game and then to, sweep them, I knew San Antonio was going to be tough. I didn't think it was going to be any kind of a cakewalk. But I knew they'd win the championship when after OG made the tip in and there was still 1.2 seconds left. And whoever got the ball there, Castle, whoever the hell it was from San Antonio, never got that shot off. At that moment, after they won that game, I said, they're not losing this championship now. It's not happening now.
You've talked in the past how when you're a team that hasn't won in forever, you're a cursed franchise.
Yep.
You need to overcome the extraordinary to finally break through. It felt like that OG Anunoby tip in, the historic comeback, the greatest we've ever seen in the history of the finals. That was the moment for the Knick fan to finally say, wow, we got a team of destiny. Is that how it felt for you kind of in real time watching it?
The whole run was unbelievable. And I know I kept saying to myself, is it really going to be this easy? It can't be this easy. I was there burying everybody, 13 straight wins. And I'm like, wow, is it really going to be this easy? And then they win the first 2 games in San Antonio. Granted, they weren't exactly easy wins. Game 2 was, a gut grinder. If we can had to, endure Wembayama missing the shot there at the buzzer that would have won the game. But they're up 2-0, and then they lose Game 3. Don is in the building, and they lose Game 3, and all the insanity that surrounded that game. And I always say it though. I mean, if you're going to win a championship and slay the proverbial dragon, never-ending dragon, with all the ghosts flying around, you got to do something historic. And Game 4 was historic. 29 points down. They looked like they were dead in the water. I thought the game turned around, and to me, this is the turning point. If you want a real turning point in not only that game but in the series, it was when Wembanyama hits Carl Anthony in the mouth. Right? I think they're up by 27, 20. It might have been up by 29 at that point. They're almost 30. And he hits him in the mouth, and they finally call a freaking, flagrant on the guy. It was stunning. They were, and there were a couple other flagrants he had too, but they were never going to suspend him for a game. That was never happening. That was the historic moment that had to happen for them to finally win. No doubt about it.
I'll tell you what, the one thing from this series that surprised me is how much I despise Victor Wembanyama
Oh,
and just how dirty of a player this guy is.
He's the dirtiest player in the league. And he had the balls. You hear him after these games? He had the balls to say the Knicks were dirty. He said that. Are you kidding me? Come on, Victor. Give me a break. And I hate to compare this to this because I used to hear this all the time. When Patrick, in the Ewing years, we'd lose to the Bulls again, and Patrick would inevitably say, after another series loss to Jordan and the Bulls, he would say, well, but we were the better team. And I would always say, well, Patrick, I love you. You could see him up there in the background. I love you, but we weren't the better team. We lost again. Okay, we lost again to the freaking Jordan. And even the year we beat the Bulls in 94, you were still a tyke. I don't know if you were alive. Even when we beat the Bulls in 1994, if it wasn't for the Hugh Hollins call on Scottie Pippen in Game 5, Hubert Davis hitting those free throws, we wouldn't have won that series either. We would have lost to the Bulls without Jordan. So, all those brutal losses. But to hear Wembanyama make the statement, about the Knicks being dirty and all of that, and crying about how they were a better team and how they outplayed us for most of the series, and and they were ahead like 70% of the time. I mean, let's be honest. But I don't want to hear it. Victor, you lost, man. You had your opportunities. You could have hit that shot in Game 2. You didn't do it. You missed a couple big free throws. Was it Game 4? I think it was. He missed a couple big free throws there. He was running out of gas in these games, bro. Let's be honest. And I thought the moment, there was a couple great moments. OG had that dunk on him, earlier in the series. But the moment when Brunson went right at him in Game 5 and made that layup right at Wembanyama, you're like, oh, man, unbelievable. They just put Brunson's number in the rafters now. I mean,
build a statue, Joe. I mean, it's
unreal. Here's what I was thinking. Here's what the Garden should do. Okay. They should, you got that area where they were having the watch parties, right? Which is between
Plaza 33, it's officially called.
Whatever you want to call it. They should make that the I don't know what the word would be, the hallway or runway of champions. And what they should do is they should put statues up to Willis, Clyde, and Brunson. And also, they should put statues up to Brian Leach, Mark Messier, and Mike Richter. They should have one side the Knicks, one side the Rangers. Call it whatever you want, the hall, the museum, whatever. Come up with some kind of name of it, and put those statues there. And that's what the Garden should do. I really
with Brunson in particular, Joe. It is surreal to watch a New York athlete on one of the teams that we root for do what he has done now for the last several years and raise his game in the clutch moments, unlike any athlete we have seen in this town since like a reincarnated version of like Derek Jeter and Mariano Rivera. It is surreal. He is right up there with any of the all-time New York athletes as far as impact and what this championship will mean for Knicks fans for the rest of time. What do you make of just him as a player and what we have watched, and of course what we watched throughout these playoffs with Brunson?
Well, I think the thing with Brunson that really sticks out, I mean, I think we can make a statement now that he's the greatest free agent signing in the history of New York sports. I think he goes past Reggie Jackson because, Reggie came to a team that already won the pennant the year before, and he was the one that put him over the top. But this team was in the abyss. But where were they? They were in the abyss for 20 years. And they signed this guy. And let's be honest, Jake, there's not one person alive that ever thought when they signed Jalen Brunson that he was going to turn out to be, this iconic player, this all-time great that was going to finally lead us to the promised land. Nobody was thinking that. And, and here he is. And I think that makes him even more. It makes him even greater because we had no idea. Yeah, okay, we're signing a nice player. Okay, we got our point guard. Well, all right. But you weren't, I didn't think we were getting a Hall of Famer, like I said, that was going to, lead us to the championship.
It's just hard to fathom how good he is, how humble he is. Like he's like built in a lab of like what you would want your leader to do. And again, he's barely 6'1". He's going at Victor Wembanyama, the unanimous MVP. He scored 45 points in a closeout game where Cat only had 2 points. OG had an off night shooting. I mean, that was Jordan-esque. It's only him and Jordan who ever had that many points in a road closeout game. It really is surreal what we're watching. Like I will for the rest of my life be able to tell my kids, grandkids someday that I got to watch Jalen Brunson lead the Knicks to their first title in 53 years.
Yeah, he might not be done. I mean, let's be real. I mean, look, already they got I think they got the Thunder as the favorite to win next year, and I think they got us. They actually, my buddy Kenny was telling me that they got the Knicks behind the Celtics to win the East next year.
Yep.
Are you kidding me? Come on. Now I know there's a good chance Boston might wind up with Giannis. I mean, I guess that's possible, but give me a break. So who knows what? Look, this is going to last. I never thought I'd see another. This is going to last me this might be the last one I ever see. So, but, would you really put it past Brunson to win again? And let me say this too. You talked about, Carl Anthony did nothing in the last game. The officials wouldn't let him.
It was horrendous.
He was getting the foul call. This guy never gets a call go his way. I mean, this guy, how many times you see him go to the basket and just get clobbered and never get a call? Never, never, never. And they called these ticky-tack fouls on him. In Game 5, he had 3 fouls in the first half. 10 seconds into the third quarter, they called the 4th foul on him on as bogus a foul call as you could be. How about the call they made? I guess it was a Game 3. Might have been the game. It was either Game 3 or Game 4, where 2 minutes into the game, he had 2 fouls on him.
It was Game 4.
They overturned the call.
62 seconds into Game 4, he already had the 2 fouls.
Right, and one of them was an overturned call where they actually called the foul on Wembanyama, and of course they challenged it, and of course they got the challenge, San Antonio, and I'm like, what? Offensive foul on Cat? What? So they made sure he couldn't play in that game. Look, the officiating in this series was ridiculous. I mean, it was. That's the other thing. Knicks not only had to overcome beating the Spurs, they had to overcome the officiating, which was trying like hell. Was so one-sided for San Antonio. This guy Wembanyama gets away with murder. It was an absolute disgrace, bro. Let's be honest about it.
And Adam Silver is very lucky that Jalen Brunson wasn't seriously hurt on that blatant missed flagrant foul when Wembanyama didn't.
That was Game 3 when he threw him to the ground.
So there was that. They didn't call it. And then they gave him the flagrant in Game 4. In Game 5, they missed the landing foul. That's an automatic flagrant. That would have been a suspension.
Because they would have had to suspend him if they called that.
Right. And the league is very lucky that the Knicks won in 5 because that would be the big topic. Wembanyama should be suspended for Game 6. I mean, it's ridiculous what they were letting him get away with. What were your thoughts on him not shaking any of the Knicks players' hands after the game?
It reminded me a little bit of when Isaiah Thomas and the Pistons, when they finally got eliminated by the Bulls after they'd beaten them 2 years in a row, and finally the Bulls beat them in 1991. And Isaiah gets the rest of his teammates, Lambeer and company, to walk out before the game's even over, right? And that's the reason why he didn't play on the 92 Dream Team. Jordan wouldn't allow Isaiah on that Dream Team because of it. It kind of reminded me a little bit of that, but just shows the sour grapes of this guy. You're 22 years old, bro. You got a lot to learn yet. Yeah, you're a tremendous player, but you got a lot to learn. They figured, after they beat I really believe this with the Spurs. They really believed after they beat the Thunder, especially winning Game 7 on the road, that they were just going to walk through the Knicks in this series, And obviously that didn't happen. They got a lot to learn. Look, they're going to be a team that's going to be very difficult to deal with. He's 22. Dylan Harper, who's a tremendous player, is 21. This guy Castle's 24. They're a very young team. But you know what? You got to learn how to win in this league. You know what I mean? You got to take your lumps and learn what it is to win. And I mean, he's shown what an ass he is. I don't know any other way to say it, man.
Well said.
I loved it that we stuck it right up his large rear end. I'll tell you.
Agreed. And that was a big reason why I wanted to play the Spurs. Some Knicks fans were saying, well, you play the Thunder, they're not fully healthy, but they're champions. They've won. They've been through it.
Right.
You want to play the team that's going through it for the first time. Wembanyama's never played in the playoffs before. They're an amazing team, but they don't know how to win just yet. Other than, I guess, Magic, who played with Kareem. Like, what rookie comes into the league or a guy in their first playoff run and wins right away? Like, it takes time to do it. The Knicks are a great example of that. They've had to go through the wars the last couple of years to kind of build up that scar tissue to break through.
The only guy that comes close is Kareem. The Knicks beat him his rookie year in 1970. You can't see it, but I got a great picture here of him and Willis from Sports Illustrated cover from 1970. You can't see it from where we are. But his first year when he was Lou Alcindor, you know, the Bucks went from a 26-win team to a 56-win team. They played the Knicks, and they were in the Eastern Conference at that. I guess they still are. But then they moved them, though. They did move them after that to the West. I think they're back in the East now, but they did move them back to the West. And, you know, the Knicks beat Kareem in 5, his rookie year. And then the next year, the Bucks they got Oscar Robertson. They won 66 games, and they won the NBA title. Of course, the Knicks got beat in that Eastern Conference Finals in 7 games by the Bullets, of course, because Willis was hurt. But, you know, so that's the only guy that comes close. Like you said, other than Magic, but Magic was playing, you know, with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, even though Kareem got hurt in that playoff series, and Magic had to play center in Game 6 and had that tremendous game against Philadelphia.
Joe Benigno is my guest. Hit the like button. Make sure that if you're not subscribed to the channel, you do so. Joe, Mike Brown, I mean, he takes over for Tom Thibodeau. I was someone who thought that's not the right move. That's a huge risk. Give Tibbs another chance with his team. And I can't say enough positive things about what Mike Brown did, the way he used the bench, the trust he showed in guys all throughout this run. There was a different hero seemingly every night, in addition, of course, to the great performances you're going to get from a guy like Brunson. Just your thoughts on Mike Brown and obviously his legacy now as a coach of the Knicks. He is forever etched in stone as one of the most important figures in the history of the franchise.
Look, and he was an afterthought, man. Let's be honest. They wanted Jason Kidd. That's the guy they wanted initially. There was a couple other guys they were interested in, and it was almost like Mike Brown was the final resort for them. And you couldn't be more right, bro. I mean, this guy, the job he did. Look, I think one thing, Brown, not only did he play the guys in the bench, and obviously all the bench guys that played in the playoffs had their moments. I mean, every guy had some kind of a contributing moment, whether it was Mitch, whether it was Shamit, whether it was Clarkson, Alvarado in Game 4 in the big comeback. Every one of those guys, McBride, who had that unbelievable Game 4 against Philadelphia in the closeout on Mother's Day. You know, everybody had their moments. But I think one of the keys to them winning the title, and this to me is a big deal, okay? And I said this during the regular season. People kept asking me, well, what do you think about the Knicks? You think the Knicks can win the title this year? And my line to them was this. Look, the Knicks are going to be a 50-something win team, right? This is during the year. They're going to win 50-something games. They're going to be a top 4 seed in the playoffs, and they're going to get home court in the first round. Now, home court means not one thing that and I've known this for a while, but one thing we found out this year in the playoffs, you know, you had 3 road teams win Game 7, and obviously the Knicks won 9 straight games on the road. I mean, come on. So every closeout game they had was on the road. So, you know, the home court doesn't mean as much as it did, but I knew the Knicks would have home court in the first round. I knew they, you know, and then I said, okay, well, I know they'll win the first round, and then they're going to go from there. We'll see. I said they could lose in the second round. They could win it all. And that's how I felt. And I think one of the things that I think Brown kind of played the regular season that way. You know, he wasn't worried about winning 65 games in the regular season. You know, I mean, the Wembayamas won what, 62 games? How many did they win? Right? Something like that.
62. Yep.
Detroit won 60 games. Okay. Right. So it's not about having the most wins during the regular season. It's about having your team ready for the playoffs. That's what it's all about now in the NBA. The 82-game regular season, there was that one stretch when I think the Knicks lost 9 out of 11, 7 in a row, something like that. Everybody's going, oh, my God. They're all – I said, what are you nervous about? It's a regular – calm down. This team's going to be okay, you know? So I think that's another thing Brown brought to the table. And obviously when he made the switch after Game 3 in Atlanta – and he ran the offense through Karl Anthony, that really changed everything too. I mean, Karl Anthony got 2 triple-doubles in that series, and everything really seemed to change when he started running the offense through Towns. Mike Brown has gone from the 5th choice to be head coach of this team to an all-time now iconic figure in the history of New York sports. There's only 2 guys have ever won the NBA title with the Knicks. One is the great Red Holzman, and the other guy is Mike Brown. So
it is surreal.
Think about that. So he has put himself in a place now that it's a life-changing place for a guy like Mike Brown.
Did you get choked up at all watching the Knicks win? We played the video of you singing New York, New York, but this was you and the lovely Terry hugging it out, and then the selfie here. You and your
with the
family. Did you get emotional, Joe, with the Knicks
You
winning?
know what, bro? I was extremely emotional. I got emotional at you know, Mike Breen had just such a phenomenal. I'm so happy that Breen was calling these games. You know what I mean, man? I'm so happy Breen got the opportunity to call his, because it's his team. He's a Knicks fan. He grew up a Knicks fan. He grew up with the championship teams. He was younger than me, but he grew up with the championship teams. So he knows Clyde was his guy. I'm sure he works for Clyde at MSG all the time. It's got to be a great honor to be doing the games with him. So Breen was just thrilled to be able to call this Knicks championship. And his call at the end of the game, and I didn't it's funny because I didn't hear it as it happened because it's over. We won, and we're just now everybody's going crazy. We're doing this. I'm hugging. I'm getting ready to sing New York, New York. I mean, I'm all pumped up, and I didn't hear the call that Breen made until probably the next day. And what a phenomenal! I mean, the way he said it, and I'm kind of paraphrasing it. It's not a dream. 53 years. It's okay. How did he say it? It's okay to cry now, Knicks fans. And I'm telling you, man, and that really, man, when I heard that, I kind of lost it a little bit. And I actually did the show. I did a special show Sunday, and I started to. It hit me there too. I on the air, and that's never happened to me. And just listening to the stuff they were playing. When Willis came out of the tunnel in 1970, and when they won, the final call in 1973. And then they backed it up with Mike Breen's call. Okay, Knicks fans, you can cry now. That got to me, bro. I got to tell you, that got to me because I'm waiting a long time. Look, 53 effing years, man. I never, the night of the Charles Smith Memorial, the night that Elijah Wan got a piece of John Stark's shot in Game 6 in the finals. I was there with my wife, Game 1 against the Pacers in '95 when they blew a 7-point lead with 18 seconds left. The finger roll in that series in Game 7 by Ewing, the suspensions in Miami in 1997 when I thought we really had a chance to beat the Bulls and the league screwed us and, we had a 3-1 lead and all of that. I was in the building in 2000. I was in the building in 99 for the final, and I saw Robinson and Duncan and Avery Johnson, who killed us in that game, raised the championship trophy. So it was really great that we beat them there and stick it to that, ass Popovich. And I got a lot of problems with him. And you know why. So I was good to beat that ass. But, and I was there in 2000 when they lost in Game 6 when finally the Pacers got to the final. I'll never forget watching Reggie Miller kiss the court at the Garden, after they beat us. And, that was kind of the beginning of the end. That was it, for a long time. I was in the Garden in 2004 when the Knicks finally made the playoffs. Isaiah was the GM. They won 39 games. They're playing the Nets, who had been to back-to-back NBA finals, right? That was the Fugazi series with Tim Thomas and Kenyon Martin. And I'll never forget it. They're down 0-2, Game 3 at the Garden. And Isaiah gets on the microphone and goes, "Welcome to the playoffs." I'm like, well, really? We got swept in that series. We won 39 games. The night when Game 6 with the big year with Carmelo when we won 54 games, right? And Game 6, lost Game 1 at home, of course. Game 6 in Indiana, and that block by Roy Hibbert at the rim of Carmelo. And then, the last few years, you lose to Miami in the second round 3 years ago. They lose Game 7 at the Garden to Indiana. And then, of course, the last year with the Halliburton shot, so many, bro, they're just endless amounts of just horrific losses in the history of this franchise. And to finally bury the ghosts and finally slay that dragon, I was thinking the other day, like I think about Charles Smith now, and it's not the same anymore. Now
Wow.
it's a foot, you know what I mean? Now it's a footnote in the history of the Knicks. It's just a footnote now. And I feel bad for Patrick Ewing. I look at Patrick, he's been at all these games and, he was there, with Clyde giving out the trophy when they made it to the finals in Cleveland. And I just looking at him and he doesn't look great anymore. He kind of, he's not aged well. He's probably not in the greatest shape anymore. And I look at Patrick and I say, it's got to be a little bittersweet for him because he didn't win a championship, it's got to bother him a little bit. I mean,
he was
I
emotional the other night when they interviewed him. He said, "I finally am a part of a championship team."
Yeah, yeah, but it's got to bother him a little bit that he didn't get a chance to win. You know, so I mean, but look, we love him. He's an all-time great Knick. He's up there on the Mount Rushmore. His place has been switched. He now moves in. He moved behind Jalen Brunson now. I still got the two old guys, Willis and Clyde, 1, 2, and Brunson is 3 now, and he can go ahead of them. He can, he wins again. Now we're going to have a discussion of him maybe being number 1. I mean, he's not there yet. Okay, I know there's a lot of the young guys that, no. You guys don't know. I mean, I'm not knocking you, but there are guys out there. Now, you didn't see Willis play. You didn't see Clyde play. You didn't see those championship teams. I was fortunate enough to see him. And I would always say, people would say to me, this is another thing that they can't say anymore. People would always say, well, you saw them win. Well, now so did you. I don't mean you. Now so did you. Now you know what it's like to see this team win a title. So Brunson's up there. There's no question, but he's not quite ahead of those other two guys yet. Has a chance to be, not quite there yet.
The Jake Asman Show is now presented by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is a daily fantasy app made simple. Just pick more or less on your favorite players' projections and build your lineup in seconds. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code HMA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. And PrizePicks is already offering NFL futures, including futures for New York Jets players. Take a look at the lineup that you see on the screen. Garrett Wilson, more than 4.5 reception touchdowns. David Bailey, he's going to have at least 7 sacks his rookie year. Arvell Reese, almost a Jet. I think he'll have at least 3 sacks in his rookie year with the Giants. That is a 3-pick power play, $10 to pay out $60. That is just an example of some of the lineups you can make over at PrizePicks. Make your own lineups today for any sport. Just download the PrizePicks app, use the code HMA, and get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. It is surreal talking about the Knicks being NBA champions. I mean, Joe, for you, now that you've seen the Knicks win, do you have some hope for the football team that is your number 1 of all your teams, the New York Jets? You have you been able to find some more hope for the future of the Jets after watching the Knicks win?
They're probably the Jets are probably number 1, but you got to remember something. I was a Knicks fan before I was a fan of anybody. My father used to take me in 1962. I went to my first Knicks game in the old Garden, 50th and 8th, right? And we used to go to the doubleheaders when they had, believe it or not, NBA doubleheaders. People can't believe that's the case now. But, you see, Lakers, Celtics in game 1. I saw these teams that don't exist anymore. The Syracuse Nationals, the Cincinnati Royals, the Philadelphia Warriors, the St. Louis Hawks. I saw these teams, the Chicago Zephyrs. I mean, really, I'm an old man, man. I go way back. So I saw all the, when the Knicks really stunk, guys, Richie Guerin, who should be also have his number retired, number 9. He was a great Knick when they were not a good team. And guys like Johnny Green and Willie Knowles and, Dick Van Arsdale, Darrell Imhoff. I mean, go right, Bellamy and Comives, who eventually got traded for DeBusschere. I saw all these freaking guys play. So, yeah, football is probably my number 1 sport, but the Knicks, they're not too far behind. The Mets either. Rangers are kind of like the 4th. But, I was a Knicks fan even before the Jets, not until Namath came in 65. Do I think that, here's what I think. I think that obviously Leon Rose changed everything, more so than anybody. He's probably the number one reason that the Knicks, all the moves he made, that every move he made, bringing in, none of the guys in the starting lineup were original Knicks. Every one of them was traded for. So there's the numbers. These are the numbers now. The longest without winning.
Wow. The Jets lost their neighbors. I mean, it was always the Knicks and the Jets right there.
Yeah. Wow, 50 years for the Nets. That's right. Dr. J, 1976. How about the fact, before I get into what I'm going to say about the Jets, how about the fact, and this was really the beginning of all the pain for us Knicks fans. How about when they merged with the ABA in 1976-77, and the Nets had to pay a territorial price, to go into the Knicks territory. And it was a $4 million fee. And Roy Bowe, who was the, president, whatever he was, owner of the Nets, whatever he was, offered the Knicks Dr. J instead of the money. They offered him Dr. J, and the Knicks said no. Right? Think about that. Was Dr. J worth $4 million? When you look at how different would things have been if the Knicks, as they were going into a bad stretch after they had won the championships, they eventually traded Clyde, Willis retired. Eventually, everybody was gone from those championship teams, and they went into a real down period until Bernard showed up, and we had a couple of really good years with Bernard, and he wasn't around that long either. But just think about that, bro. That the Knicks turned down. Here, take Dr. J for nothing. Just waive that $4 million fee. How different things that it would have been if they would have took the doctor back in 1976. Think about
crazy.
That.
It is.
Right?
That is crazy. That's a real thing.
Yeah. But going back to the Jets, maybe Darren Muji has a chance to be the Jets' Leon Rose. Maybe. I mean, I like the moves they made. I think Muji has done a lot of. They signed Joe Tipman now to a long-term deal. The draft I thought was outstanding. We talked about it. I thought the draft was terrific. All the guys they brought in free agency. I think they got keeping Breece Hall and now signing him to a long-term deal, not just the the franchise tag. I love what they've done. I really do. And I think they're going to be a lot better than people think this year. I mean, I don't think they're making the playoffs, but I think they're going to give us a legitimate season for a change. That, by my birthday, September 26th, the season's not over.
We couldn't say that last year.
Now, and here's the thing, too, that you got to love if you're a Jet fan. The fact that they play no night games. How great is that? Every game outside of 2 games on the West Coast that are 4 o'clock starts are 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That's phenomenal.
1 o'clock, and if they're playing a night game, it means they actually were probably pretty good, and they got flexed to one late in the year.
They flexed it into the night, right? Yeah. Exactly, right.
It's to me the Knick turnaround really started with, of course, Leon Rose, and then Tom Thibodeau came in, and the Knicks aren't where they are this year without him. Basically,
by the way, Thibodeau should get a ring as well.
If he wants one, great. They should just give him one. But I'm with you. But like that's where the turnaround for the Knicks started. They were in the depths of hell, and he got them out of that. They were a respectable franchise. They made the playoffs that first year and lost to the Hawks in 5, but there was like a foundation that was being built. I think we might have a GM from a Jets standpoint. I just don't know about the coach, but I do like the fact that the Jets have 3 first-round picks, $150 million in cap space. And Joe, I don't think the roster is that bad. I mean, the offense has everyone under contract besides Geno a year from now. Whoever the quarterback is, they're stepping into a pretty good situation going forward.
Hey, look, their defense last year, but toward the end of the year, was not a professional defense, and they've really shored that up with the guys they brought in: Minkah Fitzpatrick, Demario Davis, the guy they drafted, Pons, in the 2nd round. The guys on the defensive line, Sweat, that they brought in him that deal with Tennessee. Some of the other guys, that they brought in here as well. Look, I mean, they got to be better than they were. The only move I don't like is that they let Nick Folk go, which I thought was a mistake. Did they sign the guy from that we used to be with the guy from Ridgewood? Coos, didn't they sign him? Did I see that?
Yeah, well, so they got rid of him already because he stunk.
They did.
At OTAs. They signed Jason Sanders, who was hurt last year, but he kicked for the Dolphins. So they have him and
right. That's right.
Cade York as well. So that's the competition as now.
Right. But that's the only move. I didn't understand why you let Folk go. But, outside of that, I like everything Muji's done. So maybe Muji turns into Leon Rose. I mean, that we could only have that happen, bro. That would be it. If I got a Knicks championship, which I never thought I'd see. If I ever got the Jets, then the good Lord can take me then.
Could you imagine if the Jets ever had a run like what the Knicks did, where they dominated through the playoffs, and then let's say the Super Bowl was close, but like they rolled their way through the postseason?
Like I said, when you slay the dragon, and this is some freaking dragon that needs a lot of ghosts with the Jets, that's for sure. Something epic is going to have to be done, like what the Knicks did in Game 4. I mean, something historic is going to have to be done. There's going to be a point when it's going to be that moment that's going to determine whether you're a champion or not, and that moment finally came for the Knicks in Game 4 at the Garden. There'll be some moment that we will be sweating bullets if it ever comes with the Jets. That's for sure.
You are certainly right about that, Joe. Well, hopefully We get to experience another championship together. We got the Knicks. I don't know how many people thought that would ever be possible. So there is hope for the Jets if the Knicks can come through, because everything they say about the Jets now, the same things were said about Dolan and the Knicks and the way they were run for years until they finally got it right.
No question. Dolan was a hated man in his town. And, one last thing, the comparison to the championship teams in the 70s is great because, there's 7 or 8 guys on this Knicks team that, legitimately, I could say if the game was on the line, I would be okay with that guy taking the shot. There's probably 7 or 8,
It's definitely not Mitchell Robinson, but everyone else.
Mitchell Robinson is not. And I don't know if I put Clarkson, in that category, but probably anybody else, Shamet, even McBride. Now, how many big shots did these guys, especially Shamet, how many big shots in the comeback against Indiana, against Cleveland in game 1? How many big threes did he hit in that game? How many big threes did he hit in the playoffs? So, I'd be confident with him. I'd be confident with any of the starting 5, even Josh Hart, and even who had a really good game. And, because Brunson was so great, you forget Hart had a hell of a game. He had a couple big threes. He had 13 points. He had 11 rebounds in that game. Even Bridges who really did nothing in games 3 and 4. 14 points. He hit some big shots in that game. They both missed big foul shots down the stretch. Okay, but Mitch got that great rebound on one of those missed free throws. But they compare favorably to that team. And I'll always look at the OG Anunoby trade. That was the modern day Dave DeBusschere trade.
Yes. Peter Vesey said the same thing.
There's no doubt about that. So, and I think when all is said and done, look, that whole championship team is up in the rafters. Every one of them is up there. Willis, Clyde, Bradley, DeBusschere, Barnett, Earl of Pearl's up there from the 73 team. They're all up there. And don't be shocked if, when all is said and done, all the starting 5 finds themselves in the rafters when all is said and done. And look, they're all signed. They're back together completely. I know Mitch Robinson's a free agent. I know Shamet's a free agent. You're probably going to lose Shamet. I think there's a good chance you will. But the starting 5 is intact. So who knows, bro? Who knows where we go from here? And when you got a guy like Brunson, who's has become a legitimate assassin, okay, who probably is the best clutch player in the game right now. I think
without question.
You could make that statement. Who knows?
He's the best closer in sports since Mariano Rivera.
It's Mariano. And, who knows? Maybe this is only the beginning, bro. Who knows?
Imagine that. Imagine that.
Yep.
Joe, final point on the Knicks, because you've seen it all. I think it's so fascinating that this Knicks team is going to be one of the most beloved teams in the history of New York sports. And they're also, if you just look at what they did, 16-3 during the playoffs, the margin of victory, the greatest ever in the history of the playoffs. They're one of the most dominant New York teams we will ever see. It's very rare. I think you could be on both of those lists. Just your thoughts on that.
Yeah. I mean, they're there. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, how could they not be? Even the finals. All right. Some of the games, obviously there were some gut wrenching games, but you beat them in 5. You won every game on the road.
3 road wins.
Yeah. Right. I mean, you close it out every closeout game was on the road. It wasn't 40 points like every other series, but it was a gut grinder in game 5. I have to tell you, I never really felt they were going to lose that game. I just didn't. I didn't, even when they were down 16, what did it mean? Because they were behind in every freaking game. It meant nothing, not the way this team has played. So, bro, who knows? Maybe it's the beginning of something. We can only imagine. I can't imagine. I always look at those teams. I'll say this. The Knicks from 1969 through 1974 gave me more than any of my teams ever did. They were in the conference finals every year. They were in the NBA finals 3 times. They won 2 championships. They probably would have won at least another one if Reed didn't get hurt, because he was never the same after he got hurt in game 5 in the finals in 1970, even though he came back out, and even though he came back and he was the MVP in 73 as well. By the way, how about that? Only Jalen Brunson and Willis Reed. That's it for finals MVP for the Knicks. Pretty good company. But, they would have probably won another one if Willis didn't get hurt. So that team for that 6-year period, man, I mean, every year I felt I had a legitimate chance to win a championship, right? So maybe we're getting that again. We could only hope.
Amazing. Joe, I'm so happy for you. All the long-suffering Knicks fans, you're right there at the top of the list with any of them. So you deserve it, and hopefully this now opens the door for the other teams in your life, of course, especially the Jets, to break through next.
Yeah. Yeah, you too, Jake. Congratulations for you. I know you're a big Knicks fan. I know you were in the building for the OG game. I know you were there. I didn't see you sitting next to Taylor Swift, but
I was next to your guy Big Don the night before as well.
Not Big Don, right? I'm surprised, yeah. I'm surprised you weren't up there with Don and Dolan and everybody who was up there. A lot of people were up there with him. His granddaughter was up there. So they had a lot of people up there with him. But what I was going to say was, I'm surprised I didn't see you with. How about the fact that she's sitting there courtside with her, asshole boyfriend, because he's a great player. He's a Hall of Fame tight end, but he's an ass, And this guy, nobody even knew who Travis Kelce was until he started. Let's be honest, and started nailing Taylor Swift. Okay, let's be okay, right? Am I right? Right? Let's be real.
Football fans knew who he was, but
right, football fans, but the people that follow Taylor Swift have no idea who this guy was. I mean, let's be real about it until that started happening. And she's sitting courtside in Cleveland, rooting for the freaking Cavaliers, while he's sitting there chugging a goddamn beer, right? And there she is at the Garden wearing these Stevie Nicks T-shirts. What the hell was that?
She's getting married at the Garden.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. What's the over/under on how long you think that marriage lasts, bro?
Well, I guess the barometer is what? Kim Kardashian, 72 days with Chris Humphries back in the day. So I'll say more than that.
Chris Humphries, that's the old net, right? That guy,
yes.
Right? Yeah. Is that what it was? 72 days?
I'll
put it this way. The Taylor Swift Travis Kelce marriage will not last as long as the 53-year drought I had to endure with the Knicks. I feel very confident in making that statement.
Joe, you're the best. I appreciate you coming on.
Bro, God bless. I love you. Anytime for the great Jake Asman. And I got to get my championship hat. Sometime this week, I'll you heard my wife, Father's Day's coming, so I can't do anything until after that. So I'm sure something exciting is coming. So
I love it. Well deserved. He's Joe Benigno. That's right.
Start spreading the news. The Knicks are the champions of the NBA world. How sweet it is. If I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. It's up to you. New York. New York. Woo! New York. World champions.
Hey, here's the deal. Just got no chance unless you click on that like button. And you got to make sure you subscribe to the Jake Asman Show. You don't? You can get the f*** out. Now let's go, Asmaniacs. We're built for this shit.